Nancy Pelosi, saying she did this with her partisan speech.
Well, I think the people watching now are going to look at the numbers and not the spin or listen to the spin. And clearly, last week we saw the drama where John McCain arrived in Washington. He hadn't voted since April in the U.S. Senate, but said he was going to lead the Republican charge. He was going to make sure that this was a bipartisan success, a bipartisan emergency bill. And he called charge, and the Republicans retreated. That's what happened here. He called charge. He said, let's get together. And he lost almost a veto-proof two-thirds vote here. Imagine that two-thirds of the Republicans voted against a measure that he said was essential. He said, let's do it. They said, no, we're not going to do it. I think that's the hard thing for him to explain. You'll notice that Barack Obama just a moment ago made clear he wants this bill to pass. His party voted for it overwhelmingly. McCain's voted against it overwhelmingly. As I said, almost 2-1 against it, which would be almost veto-proof. And so he said charge. He said the cavalry's arrived, and his party retreated. So here's the question. Is this the first test of his leadership ability? Not to be a maverick. There were a lot of mavericks on the floor today. If you want all the Republican Party members to be mavericks, they showed they're quite able to be mavericks.
Right.
But is he able to be a leader? That's the question. Can a maverick be a leader? That didn't work today. Those guys voted the way John McCain probably would have voted in the old days, the way they felt like it. He said, no, let's work together in a bipartisan fashion. Well, this complaint about the Speaker's remarks may be fair, but the fact is it's the job of the minority, in this case the Republicans, to corral enough members to meet their half. They both agreed apparently to have a bipartisan deal, both parties ending up enough votes so that they could get this passed in a bipartisan effort. You see what happened here. The Democrats voted for it overwhelmingly. The Republicans voted against it 2-1. That's not doing their bit here. And so clearly John McCain couldn't lead. He had a party of mavericks, as they said at their convention. This is a party of mavericks. Well, they proved that today. What John McCain couldn't prove is that he's the leader of the Republican Party. That's his problem, and it's on the paper now.
At CNBC, I mean, is it possible that this was just so unbelievably unpopular that it needed to be killed on arrival, and now we can change the language around the way that it's presented? I mean, you heard you heard Senator Barack Obama saying, you know, we want to make sure that the small business person is able to make payroll. We want to make sure that your 401k will still be there. I mean, do they bring a new bill forward that they can then say is for the people and present it correctly from the beginning, or in a more palatable way from the beginning, and it becomes more saleable? It's not about the sales job, Chris?
My answer is no. That's not the way it works on the Hill. When you bring a matter to the floor, you bring it to the floor with the assurance you're going to get the 218, you're going to get a majority of votes. You don't bring it to the floor the day before a Jewish holiday when everybody's leaving town to suffer a fantastic defeat on the floor of the House with the stock market watching. Look what happened to the stock market. I think it would, I mean, a lot of members probably thought it would be worse this afternoon. It may turn out to be worse. They don't play games like that. They thought they had the votes. The problem was the Republican leadership did not corral. That means get enough members around the leadership table where they would not release those members till they had enough to get their half of the vote. They failed. They got they got about a third of the vote. It's a failure on the side of the Republican leadership and John McCain. It's a fact.
But John Boehner said that they had been expecting 12 more Republican votes than they actually got.
Well, that's what he said. That's my point.
Well, I want to bring in Charlie Gasparino.
No, that's the very point I had. By the way, you don't expect them. If you're the leader, you demand them. You put them in the corral. You say, you don't leave here, boys. You don't get on your plane, boys and girls, until you've voted. And he didn't control his own membership. And by the way, John McCain said he's the leader of the Republican Party. His problem now is he couldn't lead the party. By the way, this is all open to interpretation on both sides and by the journalists. But I'm telling you, tomorrow morning in the newspapers, the best analysts are going to notice that the Republican Party failed to deliver its half of the deal.
Do we have Charlie Gasparino with us? Because I think he might have